I'm told that my grandfather on my mother's side of the family owned half of Norfolk. That's little over 1,000 square miles of prime agricultural real estate. Nice one, Grandad. That is, of course, a million miles from the truth, but he was still a very wealthy man. Jim Beddoes was his name, and he had various business and commercial interests in a myriad of places, including, believe it or not, in France. So he got about a bit. I guess I must have inherited that element of his DNA, as I'm very much like that myself. I like to keep myself on the go, and I'm always involved in lots of projects, many of them good causes, that I derive a great deal of pleasure from. Like Jim, I'm never still. I'm always on the move, traveling to different places, meeting people, some good, some not so good, but making the most of every opportunity and contact that comes my way. People tease me at times. They reckon things sometimes just fall into my lap. That's never been the case. I work hard for them. So I reckon Jim would see a bit of himself in me, which would make me feel proud of myself, as it seems he was quite the man back in the day. Jim was probably seen as something of a maverick at the time, as my family traditionally was one that expected all of its young men to do the right thing and join the military. In our case, it was the army. Doing your duty and all that, king and country. So there's something else that Jim and I have in common. That wasn't ever going to be the life for him, just as it wasn't the life for me either, which is, in a good old retrospect, a little bit of a surprise, as my family has long had a distinguished connection with the British Army. No, distinguished is the wrong word here. Let's just say that where British history was being made in the Empire, the Baker family wasn't that far behind. Because as I only found out in 2003, there was a connection between the family and the old British Raj in India on my father's side. That came as a bit of a surprise to me, but it is part of the Baker family story, which I might one day explore a little further, as I think it's fascinating. I only found this out when, as part of some work I'd become deeply involved with, we'll go more deeply into the hush-hush stuff in a later podcast episode, but you can read all about it in my autobiography, My Way. I was advised by Special Branch that whilst they'd been vetting me, my family background had been explored, and with all the attention to detail and elan that they are renowned for, they discovered this connection with the Raj in India. Wow, I thought to myself. That made me think, is that a good thing? Probably not all that good, if I'm honest. The British Raj, for those of you unfamiliar with the term, refers to the period of British rule over the Indian subcontinent from 1858 to 1947. That was a time when the India we know today was referred to as the British India and was regarded as one of the jewels of the British Empire, with many ancestors, according to Special Branch, playing their part in the administration of that part of the world. I can just see all the bakers of old settled down in the officers' mess. They'd taken tiffin and now complaining bitterly about the quality of the port on offer. Seems we were up there amongst the best people at the time, officers and gentlemen all. Which raises the question as to why all that tradition and discipline didn't filter its way up the family line and find me banging on the gates of the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst on my 18th birthday, demanding that they let me in. I'm a baker, you know, one of the bakers of the Raj. You might have been able to get a commission using that tactic once upon a time, but I don't think it would cut any ice, gin and accompanying tonic optional today. Not that I was interested, of course, but it did at least raise the question as to why I never took an oath of allegiance to Her Royal Highness myself, nor had it, to be said, had any interest whatsoever in doing so. This is, after all, the very same army that my father, Richard Peter Baker, chose to join in his formative years. Not forgetting the rich array of family members who in their day had held officer ratings, including an uncle who was a colour sergeant in the King's Rifles based in Nairobi, Kenya. Another reason for my visit to Nairobi and other parts of Kenya in 2018. I'm sure that my forefathers were excellent officers and gentlemen too, and maybe their trawling through the records had confirmed this to Special Branch, who were, not unreasonably, now wondering why I hadn't chosen to follow in his footsteps, or their footsteps come to that. My reply to this query was because I was, and remain, As far as my family is concerned, the one who has always preferred to walk a slightly different path to everyone else. I'm not, if I'm truly honest, that interested in the family tree. Indeed, there is, for me, a fairly substantial indifference to this subject as far as my autobiography is concerned. But that's not so much out of the lack of interest in the past as more of a yearning to look to the future and what is either about to happen or what might be about to happen. In any case, there are plenty of members of my immediate family who are interested in looking back whilst I look forward. And I have made sure that they are aware that whenever they find out something of interest, they are to let me know immediately. So rest assured, if there are any skeletons in the cupboard that belongs to Lord Russell, then they'll be appearing in my autobiography my way in all their bony, bonny glory. So make sure you purchase your copy of My Way, the autobiography of Lord Russell Baker, available on Amazon in both Kindle and softback formats. Also, be sure to subscribe to the Lord Russell YouTube channel, ensuring you don't miss any future exciting podcasts and videos. I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the inside.